Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Thematic Transformations. Yeah, transformations in Haydn's La Chasse, Symphony number 73. And this is also the Haydn Symphony CRUSADE number 73. Because, well, I mean, it makes sense to do it that way. My new series, Thematic Transformations, has focused primarily on music of the Romantic period, because that was the period where large-scale thematic transformation-y type thingies were happening. That is, tunes were used cyclically, they recurred in various movements of a large work, such as a symphony, and the theme could be transformed, in order to represent different moods and feelings depending on its context. That was kind of a romantic thing. It really was. However, Haydn invented everything, music as we know it. The classical period generally was not into thematic transformation. They tend to separate things pretty clearly. That is, there were works that were theme and variations pieces, and that's all they did. And then there were other pieces that, worked with motives, short little motives, which Haydn was very, very good at. He sort of invented that technique. And Beethoven was like the total master of it, and Mozart and those people. But they didn't really indulge in thematic transformation within large works in the same way that the later Romantic composers did. Haydn was an exception because Haydn did everything. Yes, and this is an amazing piece of music, I have to say. One of the most astonishing in all of Haydn. And it, again, it's got a nickname, The Hunt. It gets played every 40 or 50 billion years, but it still isn't appreciated for the work of imaginative genius that it is. It's really kind of incredible. And I have to say, this was one of my great discoveries in this crusade because, like so many people, because it has a title and because the finale is The Hunt, and it's the actual overture from Haydn's opera, La Fedeltà Premiata, Fidelity Rewarded is the name of the opera. And it's the overture, and Haydn stuffed it at the end of this symphony. He added an exposition repeat. Otherwise, it's exactly the same. And that we keep being told that Haydn's music at this period, his symphonies were not his main effort because he was busy producing operas and because Esterházy had a private opera house, not too shabby, and so he only wrote symphonies more rarely, and he didn't give them all of his effort, and they're not as crazy as the Sturm und Drang symphonies and full of but then you listen to them, and you realize that's all bullshit. Haydn was. The fact that he may have not had time to write as many symphonies doesn't mean they weren't good, or that he didn't give as much time and effort and energy into creating works of just devastating genius. He did. And this is one of them. And I always just listen to the finale because it's wonderful. It's so catchy and it's programmatic. It's got hunting horns whooping along. And we're going to start with the finale, actually, because, there's a very interesting question, a chicken and the egg question, which is what came first, the finale or the rest of the symphony, which Haydn decided to use in the finale? I don't know, actually. I don't know what the thought process was that went into designing this piece. But whatever it was amazing. And so we're going to indulge in a little speculation as we go. I want to play you the exposition, the opening of that finale, because that's the thing that whether or not it generated this whole symphony, the whole symphony resolves into it. So we might as well start there, and it's just so catchy and marvelous. So, wait a minute. I have this all messed up over here because I've got CDs everywhere. Here we go. Yes, we have the finale because we're using two different performances because, quite frankly, neither one was totally satisfying to me. So I've mixed them to try and give you the best of both worlds. So the first thing, the finale, is the Austro-Hungarian Haydn Orchestra under Adam Fischer. And here is the exposition of the finale. Oh, gosh, it's so catchy. And think about, what is there that Haydn might use as a transformative force? That's going to be very interesting. Here you go. wonderful, isn't it? It's just so catchy and incredible. And you think, my goodness, how's he going to develop a symphony around that whole thing? Well, my friends, he does. He does, and it's really, really kind of amazing what he does. So we have this finale, and now I'm going to play you the opening of the symphony, the very opening of the symphony, just the first few bars. And you'll see the theme that Haydn chooses for his transformations, of which that finale is only the last and kind of most exciting example. So now we have the Naxos series, and this is Bela Drahos conducting. What is it, the Nicholas Esterhazy Sinfonietta or Symphony or something like that? But it's the Naxos recording. Let's listen to the first couple bars of the whole symphony. Isn't that odd? Yes, that is the theme that Haydn will transform. In other words, it's just a bunch of repeated notes. That's all it is. Because you noticed, itch there, pardon me. You notice that when you get to the finale, I mean, hunting music is usually in 6/8 time, rapid 6/8 time, and it has constantly repeated, because it's moving all the time, it's hunting, eighth notes. Cha 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 ya ta 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 dum ba ta 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 dum ya ta 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 dum ta 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 dum ba. Right? That's the hunt. Repeated notes, always, all the way through it. It's a perpetual motion kind of thing. Well, Haydn said, golly gee, maybe I can do something with that. And so he begins the symphony in the most baffling way possible. It's just a glob, a clump of repeated notes, 21 of them. Actually, it's 18 plus 3 if you want to get technical, but it's still 21 repeated notes with a little, like some little chords underneath. What is that? It stops sooner than you think it should. It starts again and does it all over again, and it has no shape. It's the primordial soup out of which everything in the symphony is going to evolve, believe it or not. So that opening, that crazy opening, I just love it. I mean, isn't it like, you have no idea where that's going, do we? Becomes the source of an entire slow introduction. And the slow introduction has the purpose of breaking up those 21 or 18 plus 3 repeated notes into all kinds of different configurations. You get 6 notes, you get 2 notes, you get 4 notes, as long as they're repeated. He's trying out different little melodic ideas and things. You put the repeated notes at the beginning of the phrase, at the end of the phrase. It's wonderful. It's a very short introduction. It's only like a minute, but in it he's seeing what can we do with this stuff. So I'm going to play the whole introduction and pay particular attention to how it ends and how Haydn is experimenting with what he can do with these repeated notes, because that will be the source of the transformation. And you would say, okay, well, it's just repeated notes. Everything is full of repeated notes. Yes, that's true, especially in the classical period. But the idea is that you make a point of them. They're not just there because they're there. They're there because you're doing something, because you want people to notice that that's what's going on. And Haydn is really, really clear about the fact that he's going to be doing something with repeated notes, and that will be the transformative concept. I just think it's unbelievably amazing. But anyway, here's the whole introduction. And like I said, pay attention to the very end. So, at the end of the introduction, what are we left with? We're left with two groups of 4 repeated notes. Those 4 repeated notes happen to be the famous Beethoven's fifth 4 repeated notes. I mean, not da 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 da. It's not the same melody, but it's the 4 repeated note rhythm. So it's yum bum 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 bum. Yeah, there you go. That's what Haydn has sort of boiled the whole introduction down to. 4 repeated notes. And now we're going to hear the exposition, which is monothematic. Very monothematic. It is more monothematic than the exposition of Beethoven's fifth, and it uses those 4 notes more relentlessly even than does Beethoven. I mean, he gets the credit for it, of course, but whoa! Listen to what Haydn does now with those 4 repeated notes. Aha! Now, that is the next transformation of the repeated note blob that we heard at the beginning of the introduction. And Haydn makes damn sure that we relate everything that involves repeated notes to that opening blob. So we hear the transformations. It's just, you have to understand, Haydn is working on a much smaller scale than Romantic composers are. So he's not going to be dealing with big, long tunes that he can transform in various ways. He's got to find something a little shorter and peppier. And he's started with the most basic possible concept. And that exposition, which you heard, is unbelievably maniacally focused on 4 repeated notes, on that motive, which is the transformation of the opening of the whole symphony. So that's that. Now, the other thing that you may have noticed, and I included in this exposition, is that I included the repeat, that is part of the repeat, the return to the beginning, because Haydn has discovered in this symphony that he doesn't have to bring the exposition to a full stop and then go on. I mean, he'd always done different things. There are plenty of times where he doesn't do that. But here, specifically, he writes the repeat so that you can't tell when it's happening. We go back to the beginning, and we're there before we realize that's where we are, which is absolutely fabulous as well, because it means you absolutely have to take the repeat. Haydn has designed this whole movement so that you have to take the repeat. Both halves, actually. We'll get to that in a minute. So the exposition ends. It's back to the beginning. It's not a full stop. So the music has a continuity, which is absolutely remarkable. And it's all the more remarkable when you consider the fact that it's based on just this tiny little 4-note motive, which Haydn is repeating obsessively. But he repeats it in ways that are so harmonically interesting. And of course, there's other music in between each appearance of it. There's motion music and that da 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 da. It's like rapid, exciting motion music that's taking us to the second subject, which is based on the 4-note motive, and the very end, which is 4 notes. Da 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 da. And you're back to the beginning. It's really cool. Very, very cool. The fluency of the movement is what keeps it from sounding square, rigid, inflexible, because there's so much repetition of just this simple idea. So Haydn has made sure that the music is just unbelievably forward moving at every point, even when it comes time to going back for the repeat. So you don't think to yourself, oh God, here we go again, 4 notes. Oh, yeah. So we're going to listen to this whole movement, by the way, because it's just so incredible. Next, we do the development, and I'm going to play the development and the recapitulation and a little bit more of the recapitulation, because again, Haydn actually writes a second ending. In other words, you play the recapitulation and you do the first ending, which goes back to the beginning of the development without any sort of pause. And then you go ahead to the actual final concluding chords. It's only a couple bars difference, but it makes a huge difference. You must take the second half repeat because the music is different at the ending, depending on which way you're going, whether you're going back or whether you're going forward. All of these are this sounds very technical, I understand. And it's maybe a minor thing, but it's actually not. It's a really important step forward in creating music that has this inexorable sense of forward momentum, and which tells a certain story in a certain way, and that does not give performers the option to, well, you just chop out the second half repeat, we'll do it this way, no, you have to, if you follow what Haydn did, it tells quite a special story. And this first movement is about 8 minutes. It's long because you take both halves of it, take both repeats, and the music is so consistently interesting. It's really just phenomenal. It really is. So here is the development and the recapitulation, which is even more obsessively based on that 4 repeated notes. Cha 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 cha. Oh, it's just like, how does he do it? How does he do it? And listen, by the way, just before the end, that it was this wonderful sort of harmonic digression where the music seems to take a step back and go into some sort of mysterious territory just for a second, just to give you a jolt, just to wake you up if you've been thinking, oh, it's 4 notes endlessly. Gosh, what? No, it's not. It's not. Haydn always has his timing was just impeccable. So here you have development and recapitulation. Isn't that great? So there you go. Repeated notes. Just lots and lots of repeated notes. And he makes something unbelievably fabulous out of it. And something big. I mean, that's the irony, right? You've just got little repeated note motives, and he's made sure that you have to hear everything twice. It's a big, long first movement. He's showing us that he can create something gigantic out of something teeny tiny, something incredibly basic and primitive. And so this is a transformation, an evolution. I mean, it's a Darwinian process practically, and it's absolutely fantastic. So, you know, when the exposition and recap the development and recap come by the second time, then they find the right ending, and we're in business. Now, the second movement is also very, very, very interesting. People don't give that one much credit, again, because the hunt at the end is just so overwhelmingly, catchy. The second movement is based on a song that Haydn wrote, actually a song. Like Schubert wasn't the only person who took song melodies and stuffed them into his, major chamber or symphonic works. No, he wasn't. Haydn did it too. The song is called Gegenliebe, which is German. It means love requited, or love, recompensed, however you want to do it, love returned. And it's a lovely little song. It's charming and delightful. And Haydn turns it into a variation rondo. So you've got a thematic transformation, which is in turn the subject of further transformations, or variations in this case. Variation rondo is one where a rondo is A, B, A, C, A, D, A, however long you want to go on. This has quite a few sections. This has, I think, A, B, A, C, A, D, A, I think. But it's all based on the same melody. The idea of thematic transformation is really huge. And they're not formal variations. They're transformations. So you've got the main tune, and then you have an episode. And the episode is also the main tune, but in a minor key. And all the episodes are in a minor key. So you've got the basic rondo theme is the main tune in a major key, which is a little different every time it comes back. And the episodes are also the main tune, but in a minor key every time it comes back. It's really an amazing little movement to listen to. It's so much fun. But the other thing you need to know is that the theme itself is repeated notes. In this case, the two-note groupings. Jun, 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 da, da, da. That's it. Yeah, da, 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 da. It's jump, 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 da, da, da. Two-note repeated note things. But it's no less a transformation of the repeated note idea. And the thing that's so cool about it, of course, is that Haydn chose a pre-existing song after he'd already decided to do the repeated note thing from the beginning of the symphony. So again, you could say that this symphony was cobbled together from other sources because Haydn didn't have time. Well, that's just crap, isn't it? He chose his material very carefully and with great skill. And the song Gegenliebe, by the way, has been recorded by a lot of people. Ellie Ameling did it. Wolfgang Holzmeier did it. You can hear it. If you'd like to, it's a lovely little song, just charming. So let me see. We're still with the Naxos stuff. Okay, so I'm going to play you the opening theme and the first episode. The ritornello is what the opening theme is called in a rondo, the thing that keeps returning. And then the first episode in the major key and the minor key. Notice in the minor key version, the repeated note stuff starts to take over quite considerably in the way Haydn varies the melody. So here it is. Isn't that great? It's a song. It's a real song, except it's fascinatingly transmogrified in this movement. So there we have a totally different thematic idea, which yet is a transformation of the repeated note concept at the beginning of the symphony. And we move on to the minuet. Now, here's the really cool thing. The theme of the minuet is a transformation of the theme of the second movement. It really is. I'm not kidding. The second movement is dum bum 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 ba da, and the minuet is ya ba dum ba da 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 ba da 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 da. It's the same thing. It really is. It's gosh, it fascinates me. It never ceases to amaze me how people underestimate what Haydn is doing. I mean, it's all right there. You just listen to it. You catch it just by listening. You don't have to look at scores. You don't have to do any kind of abstruse harmonic analysis. It's all right there. So what I've done for this example is I've joined together the opening of the second movement and the opening of the minuet so that you can hear the identity, the phrasing identity. And notice in the minuet, the repeated notes in the theme aren't at the beginning. They're at the end. Say the second movement is dun, dun. It's 2 notes. In the minuet, it's 3 notes. Because it's in 3/4, maybe. I don't know. Ba-da, ba-da, 1, 2, 3. Ba-da, ba-da, 1, 2, 3. That's the repeated note thing. So here is the second movement with a little pause, and then the opening of the minuet. And you can hear how one tune is a transformation of the other. Yeah! And that's the way that thematic transformation works in Haydn, particularly in Haydn. That is, the tunes may not be exactly the same. They're close. There's a similarity, but the structure of the theme is identical. The phrasing is simple. The way that the melodies are constructed, one is clearly a derivative of the other. That's how we identify these kinds of transformations in classical works by Haydn, at least. And so that's the minuet. And then, where are we? We're back where we started, at the finale. The finale where we've got the 6-note repeated note thing, which we heard way back in the introduction, now becomes that fabulous Hunt finale. Now, we've already heard the exposition, so I'm not going to play it to you again. What I am going to do is play you the end, the coda. Because if you remember, there was a horn call in the exposition. So for the coda, Haydn leaves that out in the recapitulation. You don't hear the horn call. It just keeps going all the way through and stops. And then the coda is introduced by that horn call. He saves it for the end of the symphony. And the symphony then, the Hunt, goes off into the distance and fades away. This is one of the very few symphonies in the entire 18th century that ends quietly. I mean, it's softly, which is remarkable, number one, but it also ends with, what do you think? It's going cha 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 the end. The repeated notes that the symphony started with bring it to its quiet, relaxing end with a smile. It's not a relaxing end particularly, but it's a delightfully charming end. And with it, it's a smile and a wink, and no question about it, because Haydn's saying, see, that's what I can do with just a bunch of repeated notes. The final transformation is the very end of the symphony. An extraordinary, extraordinary piece. I don't know. This was such a surprise for me because I knew that finale. I knew that finale by heart. The other three movements I never paid much attention to. But then I did. And holy mackerel, the heavens opened, you know, the light of salvation shined down upon me. And it was so clear. It was all so clear what Haydn was doing and how brilliantly he did it. Even working with some pre-existing material, that finale, the overture, and a song that he'd written a while ago, and how it all coheres perfectly, as if nothing had ever existed before. That's the genius of it. So here is the end, the coda of the whole symphony. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. I had so much fun doing this. I mean, I literally had to get up at the crack of dawn to make this video because I was so excited about the opportunity to describe this work to you and to talk about the subject, thematic transformation, that we've been describing lately with, you know, other videos, and see how Haydn's unique brand of it slotted into the general concept. And it just was fortuitous that we happened to be at Symphony number 73, and I played it and went, wow, it's a transformational thing. Yeah, it is. Really, really a stunning, stunning piece of music, and I hope you'll listen to it carefully and enjoy it for more than just the finale. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.